Hello, I think I'm live. All right, Half Size Me community. I am jumping on live today because I saw a very good conversation going on regarding boundaries, and you knew I had things I had to say. You knew it had to happen. So, a lot of the discussion about boundaries and what people struggle with is this feeling of, oh my goodness, if I have boundaries, it means I got to kick everyone out of my family and get rid of everybody or put up these walls. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. So you guys know I'm going to be doing a web series, probably starting around November. It's going to take us 6 to 8 weeks to get through. And it's going to be really in depth into what boundaries are, how to know if yours needs some help, how to establish boundaries for yourself, with others, all of that good stuff, okay? And one of the prerequisites that I have said I really want you to do is to read this book, Boundaries. And this has sat on my shelf now for probably pushing 10 years. And I was going through it, and I don't know if you can see this, but all the highlighted pages I have. This book transformed my thoughts around boundaries. I will say it has more of a Christian element to it, but for me that was actually very helpful because religion was one of the things that was used to get me to compromise my boundaries. So this was actually extremely helpful. So in this book, I'm going to share a couple things with you just so you can know what boundaries are and what boundaries aren't. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what generally this looks like. Okay, like what do boundaries look like? So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is what boundaries really are supposed to be. And this is right out of the book. I'm just going to share this with you. Is the good in, bad out. So I want you to not think about boundaries like walls. We're not putting walls up between us and somebody else. It's more like you have your home, a fenced-in yard. You have a fence with a gate, okay? And that gate allows people to come in that are respectful of your boundaries. They understand what's important to you. They aren't going to say things or do things that are harmful to you. You allow good in. On the flip side of that, sometimes we have people around us that are not healthy for us, and it gives us a chance to put a little separation and put some distance between. Never is it a wall. So there's never a sense where it's like, okay, I can't get through this, okay? And the reason that this is important is because when you are establishing these boundaries, you don't want to ever think about it as being this sense of permanence to putting people out or putting people in. And really, to me, that would be the last thing you would need to do. You've already at that point said to this person, this is what's okay. You've removed yourself from the situation. This has happened multiple times. I mean, this isn't like the first thing you go to is kicking people out of your life. Okay, I want to make sure we're clear on that. So boundaries, it says we need to keep things that will nurture us inside our fence and keep things that will harm us outside. In short, boundaries help us keep the good in and the bad out. So that's the first thing you want to be thinking about, okay? And once you get that concept, then it makes a lot more sense. I have to take care of me. I have to make sure I'm healthy from the inside out. Everything around me has to help. And if I've got somebody in my life that's toxic or a drain, I need to establish boundaries with them. That's all that means. The next part that I want to establish or share with you is about putting some space in between, because I know that's one of the things that people get concerned with. And the book goes on to say physically removing yourself from a situation will help maintain boundaries. So that's not how you establish boundaries. That means you've stressed what's important, you've shared it, this person's not respecting it, okay? But it never is the way that you should start, all right? So we're going to talk just a little bit about what boundaries are. So first off, this is me and that is you. Me, you. This is a conversation I have with my children. My child, Mom, I'm not doing my schoolwork. Okay. I look at them and say, that's fine. That's your choice. You have the right to say that. That is the action you're going to take. I can't make this child do their work. I can't. I would love to be able to do that. I'd love to get in there and micromanage and make him do it. I can't. But here's what I can do. His choice. Not doing the work. My choice as a mother is to say, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. I say this all the time, by the way, and totally gets them upset because I'm so complacent or I'm so relaxed when I do. I say, That's fine. You don't have to do your work. However, the video time, the game time, and all of the action figures that are in your room are not able to be played with until the work is done. So now I've established my boundary. That's fine. You don't have to. It could be 3 days for you to get this assignment done. Totally up to you. But I'm choosing to not allow you to have game time, video time, or time with your toys until you do it, okay? I'm not angry. I'm not hurtful. I'm establishing boundaries with this child. You have a right to say you're not doing the work. I have a right to say these things will not happen until the work is done. Now, let's talk about you and your family and your loved ones. Boundaries, this is me, that is you, okay? For me, I don't want someone coming into my house cussing at me or my family. If they come into my home and they cuss, I'm going to remind them that that's not okay, and I'm going to ask them to stop. If they continue, I'm going to invite them to leave my house, okay? Where's the boundaries? For me, this is not okay. I don't care what's okay for you or him or her. For me, this is not okay. You're in my home, and I'm telling you that that's not okay. And then you continue to do it anyway, which, going back to my child example, he doesn't want to do the work, and he told me he is not going to do the work. Your choice. Here's the repercussion. The repercussion is I'm now asking you to leave my home. So if you have a child who's a grown-up, and maybe you've gone to their home and they've said, look, I know you don't like my new wife. Please don't be critical of my new wife. They're establishing a boundary with you. You have somebody come to your home and they're trying to micromanage your parenting style, and you say, look, I really don't want to discuss parenting or parenting techniques, and they continue to do it. They're overstepping their boundaries because you've already told them that's not okay. You then removing yourself or asking them to leave is the consequence of them not respecting the boundary. It doesn't mean they have to be excluded from your life, okay? Now, my experience has been that if somebody is constantly overstepping the boundary and it's more work than it's worth, and I think it flipped it again. It's amazing how it does that. I don't know why it keeps doing that. All right, so if it becomes more work than it's worth, for a lot of people, they may say, all right, I don't want to see this person every single week. I might just want to see him a couple times a year or once a month, and that's totally okay. Here's the big thing on boundaries I want to stress as well. There is nobody in your life that's over the age of 18 that has to have you in their life. Mind blowing. At any point, your mother, your sister, your brother, anybody over the age of 18 that doesn't want to have anything to do with you, they have the right to do that. They have the right to turn around and walk out. They have the right not to pick up the phone when you call. They have the right to not include you in the conversation. That may be hard for you to hear and digest, but it's true for them, and it's also true for you. Meaning that if there's somebody in your life that doesn't help make your life better, contribute in some way, and they're a constant drain, that doesn't mean they have to be there forever, okay? You're opting to keep them in. You're opting to keep in the drama. You're opting to keep in the difficulty. You're opting to keep in the turmoil. You're choosing that every time you allow that person to continue to be in your presence when you know that they don't bring those good things to your life, okay? So what we're trying to learn here with boundaries is, what is me? What is you? This is what's acceptable for me. And you really should know that first and foremost. What kind of language do you tolerate? What kind of, what kind of discussion around politics, religion? How critical are you going to allow somebody to be with your physical appearance or your child rearing? What does that look like? And that really needs to be established first and foremost. Once you have those boundaries and you know what they are, then what you can do is be able to articulate it with somebody else and say, hey, every time you come over, I notice we sometimes talk about weight loss, and I'm really not comfortable talking about weight loss, so I really don't want that to be the case. Somebody who respects boundaries will not bring it up again. Somebody who doesn't care what you want or doesn't really care what's important to you will continue to talk about it, and they're going to overstep their boundaries. And at that point, this is the hard part about boundaries. This is why it's going to be probably our last lesson or our second to last lesson, is when you say this is what's okay and they overstep it anyway, which they will sometimes, You then have to have an action that you do to establish the boundaries. It could be physically getting up out of the room and leaving. It could be hanging up the phone. It could be shutting the door. It could be not going to their house. It could be not you and your children going over to their house. You've got to establish those boundaries for yourself. But on the flip side of that, remember what I said, nobody over the age of 18 has to legally come and see you anymore. They don't have to talk to you, just like you don't have to as well. You're choosing to have those relationships. They're choosing to have you in their life. And that's a mutual respect on the boundaries. Mom, Dad, don't discuss my new girlfriend, my new boyfriend, the way I'm raising my child, the way that I'm living my life, my sexual preference, my religious preference, my political preference. You do it anyway, you're overstepping your boundaries. They've asked you nicely not to, you're continuing to do it, okay? On the flip side of that, you tell your child, this is what I expect from you, or I won't be paying for your college anymore, or I'm not going to be making those monthly deposits into your account. The child chooses not to do it, doesn't respect the boundaries around the money. You stop putting the money in the account. There's a natural consequence for these things not happening, okay? So first and foremost, get the book, okay? Go through the book. Really digest what this book is talking about, because at no point should you think boundaries are walls. They are not. They are gates with, or fences with gates. You're letting things in, letting them out. You are standing at the gate. Somebody wants to come into your yard. You say, you can come into my yard, but don't throw sticks and rocks. They step onto your property. They throw sticks and rocks. Oh, I asked you not to throw sticks and rocks. You did it anyway. I'm going to have to ask you to stop, or please leave my property. See, this is how we do boundaries, okay? Your child comes over, you say to them, look, please do not come over intoxicated with your friends. And they come over intoxicated with their friends. You invite them to leave and maybe not come back for a while. You might have certain boundaries around certain things. That's personal to you. This is all about you, what's important to you inside and what is okay for you. And that means what's going to help you mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all those ways, because your whole job is to make sure that your life is properly managed. And if your life is not properly managed, then it starts to fall apart. Okay, that's where weight gain comes in. All these different things that happen that feel out of control, it's usually because we didn't establish good boundaries to begin with. We didn't really follow through for whatever reason, and now we're dealing with the repercussions of that. Okay, so I didn't see any questions on boundaries, but I just wanted to jump on and discuss it because, like I said, I noticed there was a lot of good conversation going on around that topic, and more about this concern about, does that mean I have to kick people out of my life? Absolutely not. You do not have to kick. Hopefully it never comes to that. Hopefully you tell somebody, look, this is what I want, this is what I expect, and they respect you enough that they do it even if they don't like it. Even if, if they're doing it just in your presence with you in your home because they know it bothers you and they want to keep you in their life, they're willing to do those things. But also remember that the requirements you put should be about things that are acceptable for you, not expecting people to jump through hoops because that's what you want them to do. That's a totally different thing. So I hope that helps. All right. And remember, more good stuff coming to you on boundaries. All right. I'll talk to you soon.